Welcome to Truth Be Told Ish. Just like you, we're two guys trying to figure life out. In today's discussion, we'll be talking about why emotional control matters in everyday life. We're going to talk about the difference between suppressing our emotions and regulating emotions and how it impacts us. Levi, what experiences have you had in regulating emotions and how has it helped you?
As far as regulating my emotions, I'm sure we've all had our moody teenage years. And I know that when my emotions weren't regulated, I was kind of yelling at my parents a little bit. I was doing some yelling and slamming some doors and, moody teenage stuff. And now that I'm older, as an adult, we're both adults now. And we can have conversations that we disagree on. And instead of me acting out on the whim of my emotions, um, the situations are a lot less drastic, and there's not any punishment or discourage behind them anymore, since I can just stay relaxed and understand that we're both just two adults talking.
Okay.
And so it prevents unnecessary problems.
I love that. So being able to have more open communication and actually talk about things rather than just say it and go.
Yeah.
Right? Just say it and go. I'm angry. I'm gonna tell you what I want to say. Slam the door behind me on my way out.
Yeah.
Right? Makes a huge
last
difference.
Last second, stabs in the back right away. Shut the door.
So thank you for sharing that experience, Levi. We're gonna kind of go into defining what regulating your emotion means for anyone who doesn't know the definition. I have it right here that I'd like to read to you. So the definition of regulating your emotion is to have the ability to manage and respond to emotional experiences in a healthy way. Again, the key to that was in a healthy way, right?
Yes.
So it's very important to recognize that. So we're going to kind of give a difference what it means to suppress and to regulate. Levi, what would you say suppressing your emotions looks like?
As an example from what I just said, suppressing what I felt in the moment would be me running away in that moment, would be me shutting the door and concealing about what bothered me, what I felt discouraged by. Instead, I decided to run and shut the door, which does nothing but let you fester in that feeling that you have currently, which is an unhealthy way to do it. So yeah, that's my outlook on suppressing as an example.
That's exactly how I would explain it too. I've definitely been a kind of guy who suppresses my emotions for like the majority of my life. And I definitely hurt a lot more in that duration because instead of just talking about it and letting it go,
Yeah.
I was holding on to it, and it, even without recognizing it directly, it impacts you. And I had to bring it back up in the future to fully heal, which repeated a painful process that didn't have to be there to begin with.
Did not need to be.
Right.
You didn't need to deal with it.
And so it just becomes more painful. But again, releasing it is way better than continuing to hold on to it.
Yes.
No matter how painful it is, it's way more rewarding.
As a grotesque example, don't hold your farts. Because if you do that long enough, it'll come out one way or another. So just let it happen when it happens.
That's actually like the perfect example. Thank you, Levi. Okay, that's kind of like what suppressing looks like. Not everyone knows how to regulate your emotion. How do we even do that?
How to regulate?
Yeah, how does that look like?
As far as regulation goes, it's honestly not an easy thing. To some, I would focus on really realizing what you're doing in the moment. Because, as an example, how I've moved past from running away to my room and shutting the door was by, in the moments that I'm upset, is to really focus on what's happening in that moment, like as in my emotion. I would actually know that I'm angry and realize that I'm angry and be like, wait a minute, hold up. I don't actually need to be angry. I would kind of just change it from like a ball of fire to a ball of fire underneath some glass sculpture that I'm using. So you got to use that to form the beauty that you want to say in the argument. A beautiful argument.
Something I think it's important to note too is like even like in moments where people, how do I phrase this? So regulating emotion isn't just about knowing how to react when you're angry, but also means knowing how to compliment someone. And to know how to and what time is. For example, if you were to go to a friend's play, right?
Play.
Something they've been working on for months. They've been practicing. They're in one of the lead roles. You watch the play and you're like, this is the worst thing I have ever seen. Right? It's no judgment on maybe the person, their acting skills, but the actual play itself. Your friend comes down like this, and they're like excited. They get the blood flowing. They're like, I just accomplished something awesome. And you say, that sucked. That was the worst thing I saw. How would that make you feel, Levi? If you were the friend,
I would be like, yeah, you're right. No, that would suck.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty hurt. I'd be like, dang, all my hopes and dreams shattered.
Right? In a moment of excitement, be excited with them. You may have hated the experience, but there's good things that happen.
Yes.
They did a good job. So compliment them on what they did good.
Yes. That's a good example.
Yeah.
Because whether the play sucked, the only thing that matters is that they were happy about it.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest factor. Sure, the play might have sucked. Sure, you might have wasted like 2 hours, 3 hours watching a dumb play, but your friend's happy.
Exactly.
And then after like a week or two, you can tell them, hey, here's some tips or something.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was going to say is when they're out of that mindset of feeling excited about what they did and they're able to have a good conversation about it, you can still bring up the good they did, be like, hey, I love you. And I know this is something you enjoy doing. So let me help you notice what I think there could be improvements on. Right? Do it in a loving way. Because like if you do it in the moment that they're excited, they're going to have anger and resentment.
Yeah. Or they'll be like,
they're going to be so disappointed in what they did. Why would they ever invite you again?
They would even almost hate you.
Yeah. I would not want you there if you did that to me in an exciting moment.
Yeah.
But I would be more apt to have you show up again if you rejoiced with me. And then when I was in a mentally stable position, you said, hey, I want to see you succeed. And these are the things I could see you doing to succeed, what you could improve on.
Yeah. And
I'd be like, oh, I want this guy to come watch again. Because he had that joy I had with me, but he loves me enough to help me improve.
Yeah. No, that's great.
So keep that in mind, right? If you have a hard time holding back your opinions in the moment, that's regulating your emotion that you need to work on, right? You need to be able to know how to respond to someone, how to have joy when they have joy, but still teach them when the moment is applicable.
And for those of you that are like, well, I'm just an off the whim person. I have no filter. Get one. Because that is unhealthy. You might hate me for saying that, but that's the truth.
Okay, just to kind of move on from that scenario, we want to help you understand more of like the benefits of regulating your emotions. Why would you want to do it?
Why would I want to regulate my emotions?
Yeah, what are some of the benefits that you've noticed personally? Not just like with the people around you, we'll get into that, but what personal benefits have you noticed when regulating your emotions?
You become a lot more happy, actually.
I would have to agree with that one, like 1,000%.
It's like a literal weight has come off your chest in a way. Like one of those things that you've had to deal with for your whole life flutters away. It's just gone. Because instead of being so like, ball of anger, you become like, little bit of anger. Because it's just, you know how to massage that anger out like a knot in your back. It's not just like a stab. or something that you need to get out. It's something that you've worked on. And because afterwards, you actually notice. I don't know about you, but since I've learned to regulate my emotions, I've noticed after the fact, like, wow, I just like, because my old self wouldn't have done that. My old self would have been like, but then I just, like, you notice. You completely notice when you regulate. And that's a really good sign because that means you're growing into who you want to be.
I came up with like an example while you're saying that. Something I thought of is, how long do you want to be around someone like that's super negative? Like you have a friend who's becoming really negative and you're like, man, I just really don't feel good when I'm around this person.
Yeah.
Like I become more negative, or like the energy is off, and I don't want to be around that kind of
No,
person.
you don't at all.
Well, if that's you, how are you able to handle that? You may not consciously recognize that, and maybe you're not super negative, but I mean, honestly, most of us are pretty negative to ourselves, and that's the same deal. If you can't regulate how you treat yourself, then you start to fall.
Yeah.
But when you understand those emotions, you can bring them up, talk about them with someone else, or even handle them yourself and just let it go. Then you don't have to hang around that negative person. You don't have to suffer with that anxiety that you face. You don't have to have that depression, because that's all centered around you and the thoughts you're having and the emotions you're leaving inside of you.
Yeah.
You have the choice to let them go. Again, it's hard.
It's hard.
But when are good things easy?
Yeah. Never.
Never.
Well, yeah, never.
There's always some work needed for something that's good. And so I'm just going to go through a couple things, benefits that you have when regulating. We went over the mental benefits.
Yeah.
Less anxiety, less depression, more joy, more self-worth. So important to have. There's even physical aspects that holding on to emotions can have. It can have difficulties with cardiovascular health, because your body is restricting everything to hold that in. And so that can cause damage to you as a physical person. I know that's how my body reacts when I suppress emotions. I physically change. So there's an experience where she's my current wife, but we broke up for a period. And that was a period that I needed to know how to properly be committed to someone. Of course, not too soon later, when I was able to handle those emotions and get them out, we got back together and now we're married, and it's the most amazing thing ever. But in that period, literally the day we broke up, I could no longer eat food. Like, it was painful. Like, my throat was swollen, and swallowing my spit, drinking water, eating, couldn't do it. It hurt. And I would do it because I like food. I like eating. But I'm like one of those guys, you put a plate in front of me, I'm going to scarf it down.
Unless it's mushrooms.
I know. Unless it's so gross. If you like mushrooms, never mind. I'm not even going to comment on that. They're just horrible. Anyways, what I'm getting with this is I would scarf the food down, but because of how painful it was, I was the last person to leave the table because of how painful it was. And this went on for a week. And then I talked to my naturopath. To me, a naturopath is very important to have because they can help you bring up those emotions. A therapist is going to be beneficial in the same aspect, but a little bit deeper. But that's what I had access to at the time. And 5 minutes of talking with him, he helped me bring up those emotions, figure out what was going on. And he said, okay, you're good now. Go take a drink of water. I left.
Dang.
Got a drink of water. I drank it. I was like, gone. I was
Dang.
like, no pain. Just like that. My body was like, you healed from what you needed to heal from, and now you're ready to move on.
That's crazy.
And I like, I was like, I don't know what this could be. First thing I'm gonna do is a naturopath. If he's like unsure or recommends a doctor, I'll go to a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to doctors for things, and there's benefits of both. But for me, I knew that was an emotional response because of the circumstance that happened.
Yeah.
But for me, that's one occasion. I've had plenty other physical responses to things that I had to bring up the emotions to get them out. But it was so much more rewarding because those slowed me down and it hurt me a lot more holding those in than letting them go. So that was physical. that was for me a physical way.
I've personally never experienced anything physically restraining, but that's interesting. That's good to know that people do experience physical restraints from emotional restraint.
Yeah. So if like you like have some weird pop up, like why do I have like this weird back pain now? Well, reflect on the emotional experience you went through and the trauma, and maybe that could be linked to it. Again, maybe everyone's different, but there are most people, even their suspended emotions create suspended physical problems that you don't know. Like it's just deep down, you may not even know it's there, but as reflex, I don't know. It could be different for everyone, but I feel like there's going to be a physical trigger for an emotional response.
I think something that's very important for all of this, to learn how to regulate your emotions, is I'm sure there was moments of vulnerability during that space between you and your amazing wife, right?
Yes.
I think something for regulating your emotions that is super important, and that's to learn to be vulnerable. That is what stops most of our growth, I feel like, because we all have this ego or this way that we need to be seen, or something that we hold on, that we put on ourselves. But we need to learn to completely get rid of that, because vulnerability is what stops all of us from growing truly. That's something that I firmly believe in 100%, because if you can't cry in front of people that you think love you, then you should just learn to be more vulnerable. I don't know where I was going with that, but people that truly love you, you'll find out who they are if you truly learn to break down in front of them about your problems. That is where you will find the people that will be in your life forever, is if you can actually be 100% vulnerable with them. So if you happen to have something holding you back from somebody right now, I suggest to literally full send it. Literally show who you are and how you feel towards whoever they are, and whoever they are. But because then you'll find out how they feel about you. And 8 times out of 10, those people will show how much they love you. And it'll be a positive factor. Because most of the time we make up these things in our head that is just not true at all. So take that leap, because in reality, people love who you are more than you actually realize. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Communication really is key when it comes to allowing your emotions to go. Because if you're bottling them up, then that creates an really explosive ending in a scenario where someone may have just said one little thing and you exploded on them for no reason because you're bottling it up. But if you communicate and you talk to people, that won't happen. Because when we cease to communicate and no one talks, that's how friendships end.
Yeah.
That's how divorces start. And that's how war begins.
Yep.
If we cease to communicate, everything crumbles underneath, because communication is key to everything.
Everything.
I think we've gone pretty in depth on why it's important to control our emotions, honestly. Like, it is every aspect of your life.
It is the biggest aspect of your life.
And definitely what I've noticed growing up is women most of the time are more vulnerably open and willing to communicate, at least with each other at a minimum. They have
Yeah.
that one best friend they'll say everything to. Men are kind of the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time we are trained, you're not allowed or supposed to have emotions. You're just supposed to be the tough guy.
Or they just don't care.
Or people just don't care. But what I've learned
That's
is
a hot take.
that there's someone that cares.
Yeah.
As a man, it is, in my opinion, less manly to suppress your emotion than it is to talk about it. A true man is willing to fight the hardest battle, which is to communicate.
Vulnerability is the hardest thing.
Right.
And communicate to communicate your deepest feelings is way harder than punching somebody in the face.
Even though duking it out
I
can
could
be
just
pretty
punch
fun.
him in the face real quick. Versus it would probably take me a while. It'd probably take me a while and muster up the actual courage and strength to talk to him about something that's truly bothering me or something. That's way harder. And I've experienced that because we're close buddies. And I've experienced that. I've never punched him in the face, but I have punched him. And it's just way harder being truly to communicate what I'm feeling than it is being abrupt in whatever emotion I decide to act upon.
So let's do it.
Punch each other in the face?
Communicate. Yeah, I'll throw words at you, man. But I definitely lose a fight. I'm tiny.
Yeah, but he's nimble.
I'm fast. I can move.
Yeah, he's nimble.
But we want to invite each one of you to start communicating today. Whatever emotions are inside of you that are building up, resentment or anger, fear, anxiety, depression, why are you holding on to them when you can let them go and live life the way you're supposed to?
Yeah. I wanted to say one more thing. It is hard to learn how to grow and regulate your feelings, but what's harder is that little space of learning to be vulnerable and communicate, or continuing to put yourself in hardships simply because it's easier in that moment, but those hardships will continue to be suppressed inside of you instead of just letting it go and then strengthening your relationships with those that you care about.
Thank you for joining today's episode in Truth Be Told Ish. We're just two guys trying to figure it out like the rest of you.